Hello. There are people who I don't even know, a whole bunch of them, who've been like not leaving, harassing me online for decades, tied to 9/11 crimes. They all have patterns tied to a house in my area with a whole bunch of people with confessions in federal crime rolls and acts in relationship to houses around where the Little Red Schoolhouse is, in the Samuel Dix house, which is in the street right leading to the high school right there, and next to the middle schools right there. Houses next to that are recorded and confessed involved with men and women, with police proven with connections to child predators, but further, and with the family members of the ones already on the sex offender list, recorded and further with crimes with them. They also recorded with WFSB police crimes, putting fake harassment against me, against a principal arrested for and with doctors that were recorded with online crime rolls with the campus before one of the sexual predators recorded and confessed with evidence crime rolls tied to and police before that too, sequence shift rolls, because they're online rape threat rolls, passion crimes used to cover up live progressions tied to fake database stacking crime. That's their motivations. That's why they're stacking so many people with insidious needs to lies and to keep impressions, pretend they're doing it for whatever reasons. I'm just trying to get into a person's mind or something like that. Why would a stranger try to get into someone's mind when they're recorded tied to? In other words, why would they obfuscate and harass someone and threaten them? And with rolls, they're recorded with rolls with the police, socially recorded and informed through years with database crime rolls. That's what they're covering up live aggressions tied to, because they had drug clicks tied to right there with the schools through these people. Now, that's all I know about them. These are strangers, so I have to describe them. You know, Joshua Julian and Anthony Yagman and his brothers next to the high school. Mike Pandoff and his brothers recorded and confessed with all kinds of police forms, with intercampus, inter-Trinity, CCSU, and this is with agencies too. They confessed and recorded involved with crimes rolls with, and with the family members of federal criminals who were co-defendants of a former director of the FBI. And then they have all different roles with FBI crimes and getting away with it because in relationship to terrorism, there's maintenance to a range of where they have internation police that facilitated and motivated to this growing up. Now they're needing to cover up live aggressions as adults because they have witness fabrication roles, database crime roles, stacking at the same time with evidence tricks in cases. They even facilitate areas like that with mass drug clicks connected with evidence for hacks. Courts originally and still. That's what motivated slavery. You can't tell about slavery otherwise. And you have the obligations, no matter what color you are, especially if you claim you're educated. You have obligations to demonstrate the fact, treatment, nature, slavery of our founders, let alone. We have to demonstrate the offensive BS and the naive justifications of that, who have to hide their life progressions. And they all fall back on database, which is also recorded and confessed. See, but we have people recorded and confessed involved with they don't understand themselves about through their own life progression cover-up needs. So we have to have acts reported. We're not having acts reported because they're putting sense first. That's why they're going offensive against a judge. I'm not making an opinion right or wrong. But they're going after allegations when those same networks are recorded using such, faking both sides of stories, and then pretending they're about that so they can charge people with federal crimes like harassment when they weren't harassing people at all, and that's recorded. and they sequence shift and evidence fabricate and hid the rape threats tied to the students in the school. They're still hiding the actually recorded proofs of, and they're saying, "I'll find it," because they're with the trick. In other words, they're recorded saying they're going to lie to the government, but just because they are it, that with areas and states recorded in collusion, with areas maintained original internation criminal persuasions. That keeps fake sides here and fake sides Russia, fake sides every nation fighting with each other, just to keep manifest means to keep that needed to keep the naive reactions to it needed, because that's what they're exploiting as fact cheap nature, substance as a nature, never worse than never free, employed as standing criminal insidious nature. So we have grown men and women with federal crime stacking verbal against strangers and then pretending other and just writing other and letting investigators do it. Other agencies too. A Leahy family that works with a hospital. I was forced in there because I had to yell because they're communicating through not groupthink and worse than mission creep. They're communicating through like a girl across the street. They're at a conversation with my life, but they told me, look, and she had her point. With the confessions of another neighbor. They may have confessions, they don't make any sense. The only time you know the person, the only time I ever had the conversations with the kids that left the house, in other words, young men who were associated with Trinity College with untimely death, and with all these database solutions stacking, who were the extended family of the guy who died in the house next to me. And the grandfather, and they lived there at the end, and they left. Also involved with aviation investigators, pilots, various natures of aircraft, investigators with that, crime rules with that, with the kids through time, and with the Dillon family, and also with the family that moved in, with their confessions and recorded crime rolls too, with police forging names, stacking names, intercity pointing guns in women's faces at mine. Woman had to jump in front of the gun of a cop, sweating like all paranoid. Like, who's going to do anything to them? We don't have guns. We're not going to do anything to them. But they know they have federal criminal crimes. Why do they do offensive crimes then? Because their motivations to as well were recorded when I was in school. So we had interbranch recorded. We have known to be Rumsfeldian. We have known, unknown, unrealized. Things like that. Criminal enterprises juxtaposed with our areas, not just as nations are legalized criminal enterprises, like especially islands like Puerto Rico and Cuba. They're victims. They're victims of the same enemy that was let be original, denatured the Native Americans, enslaved some of them, made this did a game, divide and conquer. Fact cheap in nature in relation to the craziest laws in the databases, crazier than witch trials. Slavery, what is that? It was also something with a torture method on top of it. If you don't bring the torture method of fact cheap in nature and the exploitations of a criminal on top of it, you can't treat what slavery is. So what's that mean? It means I'm making a better quality fact cheap in nature counter and understanding of slavery. So what's that mean? That means it's better for the progression nature we are, as value, as a progression nature, as its nature. Why different? So we can see that it's the only difference that's positive, also positive unto itself. Every other difference is worse than lack. It's lethal hadiths. That's what the ancients understood. We are only value as nations. Using that, we're not to control nations, to control making what's coming overall up with the waters and overall down with the rains. Any other way, overall up and down is to be demonstrated by nature with negative value nature progressions. Not the way. Leads to IDs. It's for space nature transfer. What is space nature? It is the value of the forever nature being pushed out by the one already made, as a semi-nature of itself, as a volume where the value of temporary space nature as a volume is increasing by the inherent volume and as a juxtaposition of a progressive volume. Those two semi-natures equal the inherent volume. So the discernible, so they're completely invisible but still discernible, is still discernible. And in its relationship to itself and motion through itself as a value nature relationship to itself, value/value nature relationship to itself. I forgot what it it's also, in other words, the three natures of volume. There's inherent volume, there's active volume, there's progressive volume. And with progressive and with active volume, yin yang. Can you see yin yang? You build the S, then you make the circle around, then you put the two dots. Now, there are multiple ways to draw it. But I believe that original ancients would just draw two ways. They would draw it that way, and they would draw it, instead of the solid dot, solid white dot in the black spot, and the solid black dot in the white spot of the yin yang, they would put the yin yang again inside. So it would be a little yin yangs. In other words, now we have the three natures, the two big natures and the two dot natures. And not only the wrap, but this value is a progression, as a nature, expanding, expanding as value here in relationship to our identity, or as a force from here, Leth of Hadith. Why is it here closer? Because we're closer to the, in the phenomena of the relationship to where and how the three different natures of volume of the identity of space, Allah, as revealed by pantheism, as the science before the Quran. Thank God for the Quran and for the Old Testament and for the other religions, because it's a correlation nature that we, in relationship to, like, for example, with Iran, where they spin around. Like, in other words, our right side is always our right side, no matter which way we turn. Our left side is always our left side. And in other words, because our nature, this is what English is revealed to teach, is right to left value, is left to right value at the same time, distinctly and together. And is overall up value, distinctly and together. And then how is it overall down value? Gravity. But what is the phenomenon of gravity in temporary space nature? It's a manifest relationship to the value of the physical progression of nature in conjunction with what is causing it, which is the diffusion through it of forever nature, which our identity is. How heaven and hell came from this. In other words, right now, we're in active quality of diffusion, positive or negative. And what is positive is a cause to evolution, because it's a positive relationship between the rest of nature's identity gains its value through here, which is only going to stay perfect value progression gain, which it's demonstrating with negative value nature progressions since the loss of the campus proper nature since semi-ancient time. What did this knew that it would have to set up the time so evil to make the fact treatment nature now stuck self-justified beyond vision of what native rights are, which are the Constitution unabridged, which is quality fact treatment nature unabridged, and which is also with it when it thinks unabridged, also wanting and willing to have passionate correction of that from the ground up, which is what habeas corpus laws, habeas certiorari laws, all that, formal treatments of laws can't defend because they were victim predators of a, only that realize, criminally foreign influenced, for example, just through American history and other ways. Criminally foreign influence, fact treatment justifications, abridged fact treatment, tricks with courts. Recorded now even still of a nature online too, would be tricks with being able to have the easy access to pulling off tricks between Facebook pages, like they did with the Scalera, with a Facebook page they took from mine of a Hotmail, and with child predators on and off campuses connected, and methods to it. Methods to what? Because they don't do it for, they're doing it just to hurt, just to maintain polarity, self-maintained self-defenses of originally and progressive. Breaching nature used weapons by a breaching method. Each modern nation lost to this fluent through us. That's why everyone's so ignorant with treatments of those colonizations, database crime laws, and the motivations and the rackets of them. And why and how we have agencies recorded criminally foreign influence through areas. So we have houses near the Samuel Dix house that Joshua Julian is confessed and recorded involved with harassment, also with the Facebook page of Highcrest School, and with Anthony Agman and with his brothers, recorded and confessed, involved with people involved with police, with court police, and with judges, stacking database solutions, fake relationships to me through time. I had to write a complaint about a Judge Smith when I was a kid. He yelled out, "This is your father's fault." My father didn't even know who people were. I didn't even know who the people were. Some people told me to do something I didn't do. I threw it on the ground. I went like that, I faint, and I threw it on the ground. Something they wanted me to throw through a window to break it. And then some other kid threw it, and they admitted that. But then I don't know what they put other in databases. And that was on the other side of the high school. I don't know those people's names to date. They would do like little directed theater like that through all these police forms, foreign and domestic, with the drugs, with the kids, with the undercovers, per them. Since I was a kid, I've been asking. I recorded stuff like this. They were supposed to report that stuff, do something. They didn't do anything. They were controlling the drugs through the kids and putting database people in classes that people had nothing to do with, to then feed into the and insulate the polarity cultivations, which is being used to hurt the everyone of every age, but with intercampus ties, especially to the college campuses, because then in relationship to on and off campus rackets that are originally victim predators, maintained as all-standing tools, but as criminal insidious natures without understanding. The same way they were motivated to roll with it without understanding the first branches, and people since, like pretending that they believe, and teaching people to believe that witch trials were about drugs and about some kind of a fungus on the wheat. The real cause for the witch trials, real or fake, the right thing to say is it was the organized crime method that motivated the slavery of our founders, who couldn't even show their theater indifference because there was laws even to the theater of voice. If you even met to talk about, if you even found out we're talking about building infrastructure outside the little boxes they put here, with slavery already entrenched here, that was the slavery of our founders too. No one cares about it in relationship to people, because they're thinking about it through color. And if you protract that quality of fact treatment nature, you get played by what is sophistication, which is only predatory litigation nature. As the lawyers and as the courts together originally. And we could see how that is to a manifest that was for a long term still. And how that is to play it. Because everyone is told not to think. And this is intercampus, interage against each person of fact treatment nature. That's what it was. That's what it was always. See, we have experts who jump in right now. If I was, and they would say no. But that's what it was, a fact treatment nature racket. And see, we have to stay calm here, but they don't let that because is an engineering as a nature to be exploited. And it's needing to defend live progression, cover up needs and styles and natures. It needs to a maintenance of a range that has original, like the Morrow family, recorded and confessed, involved with other nations' families, police, with the stores, and with databases, with schools, and online police, with Weatherfield police, and with child predators, with doctors, and with cliques with all kinds of drugs, like steroids tied to the ones with forging names, and with evidence crimes rolls with hospitals and with courts, typing fake conversations, forging names, putting things into databases with hospitals that people were never even in, and then with ones that were forced to be in, and just were there normally, and then they wrote pretended that they had conversations with people they didn't. Sequence shift, forged names of doctors that no longer work at the place. Institute of Living. Brendan Leahy also. Since I was a kid, people making confessions about this guy to me. I don't understand him. Rick Champfillon said he's a bad guy. His brother's friends with his friend, they were like involved with something. That was after they graduated. It had something to do they had with John Mariano. And with other courts, people like Brian Silver. And I don't know, because I don't know those kids. They grew up, I didn't know them. After they graduated, they came back and they made confessions about all the stuff they tied to their roles with court police, and with a DeMorrow family, and with Eric Jensen, and with the Sal Civiello, and with other court house across the street from him, and in that area with Two Rod Highway, where Two Rod Highway goes into Two Rod Hangdog Lane. And that's connected to the house that go in front. The house is next to the high school with the drug crimes and with the child sex offenders tied to the police and the fire departments, but further recorded and further confessed with more of them. But they're not following the rules, letting me do it, and they're torturing me by every time if they'll forge names, switch names. In other words, they're communicating to me that way and torturing me. In other words, pretending they're caring about not giving up their people, but it's because they were confessed and recorded, directed to come to people's houses, like in mass groups and stuff like that, and pretend things in databases. In other words, I've never been, like, I'm not going to fight with the cop. I'm not going to have a gun, and I wouldn't want to do that. Why would I want to do that? But what I want to do is have all that corrected now. Now they have too many federal crimes stacked. They also attached me with this, with MPO Floyd and Justa Kovinskis and Lucinda Kovinskis, also confessing, recorded, criminally involved with their kids with it, non-verbally confirmed and verbally confirmed through time, with database crime rolls, and with police associated with Fox CT, and with WFSB, and with Weathersfield Parks, and with intercity schools, with the kids criminally through time. This was keeping manifest problems interstate, worse than interstate, manifest fact treatment nature justifications, all nave, abridged fact treatment nature. The Constitution abridged. Our founders, slavery was wanted, needed, told by them and by us. But with this not being let because we have business of nation that's still recorded criminally foreign influence. Because we have the nature of the law now that it's recorded per a method that's keeping courts trained to precedents needing to be charged in relationship to their private industries ties that they don't have the heart to take apart because they've been exploiting them, covering up their life progressions tied to what they were only let realized as victim predators. That's why. There's no excuse for little Hartford on top of the Connecticut River, poverty like that, and exploitations of it through it the whole time consciously. Because everyone's blame leading. One president can't just come up there and have only let abridged fact sheet in nature, opinions, criminally foreign influence through books, all multi-front. Not one person letting correlations value discerned. So, let alone its progression, relationship, radical correlation is the discernment between the difference between ratiocination and pseudo ratiocination, which is the cause of positive or negative value nature progressions, which is recorded tied to a torture method that is recorded worse than slavery still, because this torture method is criminally foreign influence maintenance to itself means that is keeping self-maintenance to roles in nature of this, blamed on others, and that was reliant upon needs for a sick, internation, maintained internation, shared agencies incapable of countering the juxtapositions of criminal enterprises with and as their own nature in relationship to avert criminal enterprises and victim predators of areas only realized through native connected campuses when they go home and stuff like that. Everyone's a victim predator to what is keeping original life progression, cover up natures, needing that and keeping that. To keep per methods keeping everyone hurt and just playing the business narrative, which can't speak for the nature of the law. The English is very powerful and important, more important to the law, with and as truth, because it's beyond its body. The Republic is only as a negative value nature if it's not an expanding value nature. They knew that. The original ancients, they had the Republic revealed before criminal internation, before internation sciences were criminally re-engineered. They were first value that made areas and states and nations value realize themselves as a simultaneous value relationship, to see that as value as correlation, to see that simultaneous relationship. And they made areas, states, and nations evolve. And that evolved, and that revealed the republic for which we stand, abridged in sense. Hence, we need to indict this as a human species together. We need to understand the tactical denatured relationship to the Native American, to the landscape that forced on the Native Americans, before we can understand how to counter everyone not understanding how to counter the tactically denatured relationship to nature in other lands. Especially where there's desert, and because the desert is the proof that wasn't always there. First, that's a sign of the value nature, the value of Earth as a nature leaving from here, because it's only going to positive value nature is only going to progress through here. It's only going to stay a perfect progression parallel to the complete identity of space. It's going to gain. It's only going to gain in value. That's why if it's not let be always, which is with the importance of understanding area sciences, state sciences, and nation sciences together. And that's what the snow people are for, the ancient snow people. And this is what ratiocination is for, what it looks like. Because it's a correlation nature. It's noting exceptions. In other words, it's against the law to pretend to believe allegations that are true when at the same time those same networks are recorded faking both sides of stories and attaching people's whole lives through the investigators that tell them to do it, and through medical corruption, attaching everyone. Watch out with elderly homes. Watch out with courts tied to prisons and to areas. And, they're putting even innocent people in prison, and they have sick doctors there, recorded with crimes with federal criminals, with child predators, child predator context with and as the value of campuses and of their relationships to each other and to areas and to each through time. Before they were even there, before they were in the prison with them, they were with Sandy Hook. There's no place to make a report. The whole news is recorded with like they're internation police here, and they have roles with shared medical corruption, mental health, recorded, worse than delusion propagated with all kinds of database crime roles. And that's with and as natures of agencies recorded exploiting that, needing to share and hide how they are pleasing stores together, how they were, agreed to relationships to job sites, but off the records they're with other natures of crime, with areas and with campuses through time, and with database crimes that are being employed, like as the value of our areas and states' courts, criminally foreign influence originally and progressed, even just not even debatable through proper treatments of American history. In other words, they need sense takes on positive, criminal and citizens takes on positive that are not positive and not and offensively predatory and dishonest, prohibiting the nature of quality of fact treatment nature needed to show the exceptions, which is needed with criminal and citizens nature and natures in relationship to the nature of organized crime, that method is with slavery and with the torture upon that, which we're going to address now. And this is not ego or anything like that, because all those terms and stuff like that makes everyone fall back to the liars, to other people's thoughts, physical delusions, to pseudo ratiocination and pretended to be